Hi guys, thank you for tuning in. Welcome back to the Shift Handover. Hope you're all keeping well. It's just me and my co-host today. My name is Dan Sharp and my co-host is...
Mark Smith.
How you been, Mark?
Very good.
Yeah?
Very good. This warm weather, you can't see it in here, but it's very warm, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a bit of an Indian summer.
It is. Yeah. We're very lucky.
Yeah, fortunate, aren't we?
We spent a long time bitching and moaning about the cold.
We do.
Yeah.
We do.
And I personally, and same with all you guys, have spent a lot of time on in January and December, stood outside on those front doors, 2 o'clock in the morning.
Whew.
Yeah, I'm too old for that now. So today, us old farts, what we're going to bore you with is use of force and what we think of the SIA training and how effective it is and how appropriate it is. Would you say?
I'd say so. I think use of force is such a big topic in the respect that so many people get it wrong.
Yeah.
And I don't blame the training. I think the training, we're going to talk about it, I know, but I think the training does make it quite clear, what is right and what's wrong. The problem is there's no black and white text scenario.
No.
So Yusuf, in all the years I've done the job, I've seen so many good guys and girls, good operators, lose their license or get arrested or things which they genuinely think they can justify. And I can see that it's not justified. I can see that they're doing too much. But we have a culture now where we're so worried about legislation, we're so worried about injuring people, that we're not just worried about doing too much. We've got guys out there now that are doing too little.
I agree.
Because they don't want to risk doing too much. So we've got a real catch-22 going on right now.
Yeah, I'm thinking on the spot here, but I know the American police, they have a saying, and it's better to be tried by 12 than carried by 6.
Very true.
To explain that to people, it's better to be convicted of shooting someone than it is to lose your own life, which is actually quite I don't know if I completely like that, if I'm honest.
No.
But if you take that premise and apply it to our industry, there are doormen being injured. There are members of the public being injured because door staff are scared of how much physical intervention they can use. It's almost, I have to wait until someone's punched me 4 times before I lock a wrist up. I'm over exaggerating to prove a point.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's just that fear of losing your license. And I think when you know someone who's lost their license, and you're always gonna be biased to your friend. So when a doorman is heavy-handed, has a moment of madness, a hold goes wrong, and the doorman loses his license, you're very much going to believe it's unfair because you're seeing things from your colleague's point of view. The guy you had on the floor is going to be seeing things from that person's point of view. So, we're always looking at things from different prisms. But I do think there is a culture in security where people are genuinely scared of losing their badges. And that's probably making them a little bit more hesitant. Don't know if you'd agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, we're in a real tricky time, and it's not like it's just come around. This has been an issue since door staff began. The appropriate level of force to deal with the situation. We all have the right to use force, if a crime is being committed.
Hmm.
You know, in a bar, in civilian life, if we see a crime being committed and we want to get involved, we have, we have the right to use force. But it's about what force, and it's very clear. The law is very clear. It's what's reasonable and necessary. And this is where people get very, you know, we've done it down. We've stood there with door staff, and they've said, "Well, it was a bit over the top, but he did threaten to pull a knife on me." Well, I didn't hear that. Well, no, but he did say he was going to kill me. Well, I didn't hear that either. So they start to premeditate their defense.
Yeah.
So, and it's interesting because some of this also relates back to the episode that we've just recorded that will go out, of course, about how the frame of mind you go to work in.
Yes.
If you're stressed, tired, your tolerance is less, you're more likely to lash out or be a bit more irrational with your use of force. But getting that reasonable necessary is so important, and hence why good communicative skills are so important. But yeah, you've if you don't know what you're doing, and we're going to come on to the training, if you don't know what you're doing, we have no choice but to resort to what we call brute force and ignorance. You put someone in a lock that you don't really know is effective. You put your arm, you're wrapping someone around the neck. They can't breathe. They kick off more. Then what? You escalate. You take it up and take it up.
Yeah.
Suddenly there's 3 of you, 4 of you, 5 of you, and you've got a serious problem. But I do always stress to door staff, they have to know that what they're doing is reasonable and necessary. They're the 2 key words. So even when I was dealing with situations, is this reasonable? Does it have to happen? And is it the correct level of force? Doesn't mean you can't escalate after, but it's getting that reasonable and necessary. They're the key things.
And the problem is you cannot have a black and white scenario.
No.
If X happens, Y is the right response. Because I could be faced with one person trying to take my head off, absolutely, completely lost the plot, just trying to outright go for me. If I am unable to restrain him using reasonable force, I then need to obviously use more, what is reasonable force. I also need to apply more force because I need to keep myself safe. If I'm working on my own, what reasonable force I use has to be very different than if I've got 2 or 3 guys backing me up.
Yeah.
Because actually, if you were to just isolate that one picture and say, oh, he's absolutely smashed, that doorman's absolutely smashed that guy, we didn't really need to. Yeah, he's working on his own. But actually, if he's got 2 or 3 people behind him, he doesn't need to do that. Because if using safe techniques isn't helping, he's got staff to back him up. And again, unfortunately, this is where your colleagues, I know if I'm working with you and a handful of other guys, I'm safe if a safe restraint isn't working.
Yeah.
I've worked with some doormen before where I think, okay, they're there, but if I don't manage this guy, I'm in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
So my response is very different. The behavior is exactly the same from the customer, but all these contextual things play a part. And we just have to be able to explain that and justify that. And again, it depends on what level of understanding the police officer at the time has. I've seen guys keep their licenses who probably should have had them removed.
Yeah.
And I have heard of situations where people have lost their licenses where it's like, I mean, we spoke about one-man doors before.
Yeah.
I'd love to know a stat about this. But I would bet most people who lose their licenses whilst doing something at work takes place on a 1 or 2 man venue because they know they haven't got 5 or 6 people backing them up to keep them safe. So fear comes in with self-preservation.
You know, the problem is with the one man door and even the two sometimes, you know, I mean, a one-on-one it's a fight. You know, you can't restrain someone because well, you can, but what do you do with them?
Yeah.
You've got, whilst you're restraining them, who calls for help? Who calls the police? Who's watching your back if someone tries to stick the boot in your head? Who's watching your back? Who's the witness? Who's going to help you create your instant report after?
Yeah.
So one-to-ones are particularly, you know.
And if you ever put in that position, it's very difficult. Very difficult.
Yeah, definitely.
But I do think as well, not only how much use of force you use, but knowing when to stop.
Absolutely.
Because I've seen people have restraints on someone when they could let them go.
Yeah.
You know, or the guys clearly stopped struggling.
Yeah.
You then need to start working towards a de-escalation and bringing them back. Because you may call the police. They may turn up.
Yeah.
Again, 2026.
Yeah.
Under-resourced. Your police response might not be what it was 10, 15 years ago.
Absolutely.
So actually, you may need to, after restraining someone, you may need to then be the one to bring that situation around to let that person walk away peacefully. So difficult. So difficult. And when you're in that fight or flight stage of chaos, having that ability to self-manage, okay, he's calming down. I need to let go now. But also not to be caught out.
Yeah.
He's calmed down, so I let go of him, and then all of a sudden, boom.
Absolutely.
Your mind.
Yeah.
So many things.
I mean, I watch these videos of door staff, and I watch these, cop documentaries, and I see some guy or girl put on the floor and in a perfectly, safe restraint. They're like, let me go. And I think, and then you get all these people around saying, you let him go, you're a bully. And I think, well, you're not that person. And we've seen it where you let them up and suddenly they take a cheap shot.
Yeah.
It is it's a hard judgment call to know when someone's genuinely de-escalated.
Yeah.
And it takes time. And people are clever. Some people will play that game until you let them go and then they have another pop. So it does happen.
Or when they're de-escalated, in the moment, they may be genuine.
Absolutely.
They may be, okay, guys, I'm sorry, I'm done.
Yeah.
But actually, when you get off them and they know that the whole community is looking at them, they're embarrassed, then they may decide that it might not have been that premeditated. You're talking about people who are under the influence as well.
And again, social media.
Yeah.
They've got cameras all around them. They've got to be seen to be this tough, bravado.
Yeah.
So we're going to have another pop. Exactly. It's going to go viral.
Yeah. And they need to save face.
Yeah.
Have you ever been in any situation where you've had to use quite an extreme level of force?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in situations where I've restrained people that you physically can't restrain. It happens, especially now we've got the culture where people are taking ketamine and, they were doing that a long time ago. So when it first came around, to my knowledge, kind of like 2005, that sort of time, I'd seen people that are, coming into clubs, playing up, door staff trying to restrain them. The situations where a couple of guys would normally be enough were not enough. And these, door staff literally getting shook off or flung about. Now, the problem you have with that is that when someone's on, something like ketamine, there's pain compliant techniques don't work. So you can twist their arm, you can put them in a whatever. But whereas you and I, if they put me in a wrist lock, it's going to hurt. And I'm going to stop. When you're high on those mind altering substances, it doesn't.
Yeah,
you don't feel it.
You could rip someone's wrist off, and they just
So suddenly, what do you do then? You add another 5 to it. You have 10. that doesn't work. So you've got to you've used your use of force. You can either escalate it to such a point where you're going to decapacitate someone, which is a very, very dangerous, risky thing to do, um, or you have to let them calm them down, use all the resolution techniques you've got, and come to a conclusion where they end up walking out the venue. So
Yeah,
I've seen bones snap. I've seen some really bad stuff. But it doesn't hurt them, like I said, because of the drugs they're on.
yeah, and it's very when you're dealing with people like that, they pose such a risk to you
Massive.
because if they get you to the floor, they're not stopping.
Exactly.
And then and we live with that fear.
Mm.
It's almost an unfair situation because we know if we restrain them successfully, there's a level we stop. But we
Yeah.
also know that if they get the better of us and get on top of us, we could spend 3 months in hospital, if not
Yeah.
worse.
Definitely.
There's no we're living with the fear of I need to stop now because I'm about to lose my badge.
Yeah.
They're not living with that. But as soon as they put a hand on you, they're getting arrested anyway, so they may as well go all in.
So that's an interesting point you just raised there. So I've always said the person, when it comes to these situations, the one that is willing to go further is the one that has nothing to lose. So you and I have something to lose. We have our license. We have a career. Yeah, we have freedom. You've got kids. The last thing you want is your freedom to be taken away 4 or 5 years. Some of these characters you're dealing with have nothing to lose. So someone who's got nothing to lose will always go that step further. You know, I'm not going to threaten someone and carry a firearms because I understand the repercussions.
Mm.
But what is that to someone who's maybe psychopathic? What is that to someone whose family have been murdered 3 years before? There's so many different things which make an offence. So, and that's my point. Then we don't know when they walk into the door. We don't know which category they fit in.
Exactly.
And you see the pompous lawyers and law students and stuff, but ultimately they're not going to push the boundaries that far because they know what they're about to lose. But as I say, there are other people out there that really do not care. They have nothing to lose. Some people love going to prison.
Mm.
Some people go to prison, they like it. For them, it's like 2 or 3 years, rent free.
But also, we're talking about mind altering substances.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Joe Bloggs, wife, 2 kids, stable job, lovely man, Monday to Friday. He's done ketamine, he's done coke, he's done speed, he's drunk 8 pints, whatever the situation is. In that moment, he's not the same person he is Monday to Friday.
No,
in
it's
that
not.
moment, he's the guy you've just described.
Absolutely.
With nothing to lose.
Absolutely.
So it isn't just about what their lives are like, it's about their state of mind in that moment.
That's right.
I'm sure Monday, he'll wake up and regret everything he's done. But that doesn't change what he's going to do while he is off his head on God knows what.
The damage is done.
So in that moment, these people, some of them have nothing to lose anyway. So you can't always judge that by their employment status or their family status.
No. It's
and you just never know. Just never know when someone's about to snap.
Absolutely. But so that's the thing. So the use of force is so specific to the individual. But I always remember in my mind, reasonable, necessary. Reasonable, necessary. Is it necessary to use the force that I'm about to use?
Mm.
And if it's not necessary, i.e., we can use other methods, or we can get someone else to talk to them, or we could, allow them that extra strategy. Maybe that's the way, because ultimately, if it comes to court, that's what's going to happen. They're going to ask those
Yeah.
questions. Did you have to? Why did you have to use that force? And was it reasonable? You know, reasonable. You got to look at all the factors, haven't you? The size, the age, the you know, prior knowledge.
Mm.
Now, if you know full well that this individual has been in, goes in every bar every weekend, kicks off, breaks doormen's noses, then my level of what's reasonable is very different.
Mm.
But I've got to be able to account for those actions, and that's where a lot of security operatives fall short. They can't account for their actions.
Local knowledge is important as well, because
Local knowledge is important.
it may be your first shift at a venue,
Yeah.
first shift in that town, and you don't know this is the local nutter. Or the other way, the customer could present as the local nutter.
Yeah.
And he gives off a vibe that makes you think, oh, this guy's Andy. Turns out he doesn't pose that much threat at all.
No, that's the other one.
And it's really interesting what prism you look at things, because in the moment things could be a certain way, but look completely different on CCTV, or look completely, so you haven't got just to justify what it was in the moment. You got to justify, okay, so please explain to me why you acted that way.
That's it.
Here's the evidence. Here's the footage. What was said? Oh, I felt I was in danger. What justified that emotion?
Yeah. So I'll give you an example. This happened a long time ago, late 90s. I was working in a bar, and we'd evicted someone for an assault. Police come along, happened to be near, went to arrest him, and the guy punched the police officer. Hat come off, punched the police officer, and me and my colleague came out to restrain him to help the police. No problem, kicked off, but we comfortably held him until more police come on, arrested him, took him away, and then because it was an assault on a police officer, obviously we went to court, so we were called as witnesses. Now, I had used force to get him off or get him away from the police officer. I used force to restrain him, but I knew it was justified. Now, on the day of the court trial, went on for a while actually, I will never forget how his defense would not manipulate, they're stating the facts, but how good they were at defending their guy. So I remember very clearly, I remember that night so well. They said, what were you, because they were disputing that he punched the police officer. That was the point. He was trying to say he didn't do it. They said, what were you doing on that night? So my duty, manning the front door, explain to me your duties. My duties, and it was about 11 o'clock, it was kick out time. Your duties. My duties are to monitor people coming out. What are you monitoring? Well, I'm making sure that glasses don't come out the venue. It's a very busy venue. No glasses come out onto the street, making sure no one comes in. Okay, so how much of your time would be spent on watching people coming in and people coming out? I saw most of my time would be people coming out, because I don't want glasses out, because there was no plastic then. It was all proper glass.
Yeah.
And then, okay, that's good. And they move on to another question. Anyway, then, this was my first experience of the courts. He said, so what, at 11:04, you're alleging you witnessed my client attack the police officer. How did you see that? I was like, well, there was a fracas and I saw it. He said, so you weren't doing your job properly? I said, what do you mean by that? You can't be insolent, you can't be rude. Well, you just told me you're watching the glasses come. Glasses coming from that way. This happened out here. I said, yes, well, of course. When it kicks off, I'm going to divert my attention. I said, you may have missed the first second. But no, I saw all of it. Are you sure? So you were missing glasses coming out? They wrap you up.
They do.
And then they talk about street lighting. So the street lighting was poor in their opinion on West. It was in Wester Road. And I said, well, not really. I could see very clearly. Anyway, they scrutinize, and they get you to the point where the jury are like, "This did he really see what happened? Did he hear a fracas, divert his attention? Then he assumed he saw what happened." All of it was to discredit me using force. And when I say use force, it wasn't like I punched or kicked. I literally restrained the guy, brought him to a safe place, to the police room. But in my, I had, because I was never a bully, so I knew that I had not used excessive force. So it's fine. But I could understand, and I've dealt with and helped door staff that have been in similar situations that have exceeded that use of force and not thought or understood the progression and the sequence of events that led to it.
Mm.
So the last thing you want to be is in that courtroom being scrutinized on stuff that you didn't. And then with the use of force, well, this is why it's important to document in your incident log what happened, because you can refer back to that.
It's funny. I was in court once as a victim. So someone bit my hand. I've been bitten a few times actually. It seems to be a common theme that happens with me.
Too many vampires. Man.
There we go. But because I stood behind him and I was looking at the back of his head, the solicitor said, "So you felt the bite and you were bleeding afterwards. Did you see his teeth go into your hand?" I said, "Well, no, I stood behind him, but of course I know what's happened because you don't know if he bit you or not." But he did it. But before he delivered that statement, he spent 20, 30 minutes going through the CCTV, literally critiquing me, manipulating everything I did wrong. By the end of it, I felt like I was the one on trial, and I just wanted to get out of the room. At this point, I didn't care if the guy got. I just wanted out. I was very young then. I was about 19 then. So not really prepared for that kind of environment, but it's a real learning curve. It's like
really is.
Solicitors. I mean, yeah, very difficult.
Yeah, it's a very uncomfortable situation, but it's very relevant because you get that use of force wrong, and you will find yourself in that courtroom, and that's even if you've done the thing right.
Yeah.
Okay, what you don't want to do is fall foul of that, and to be proved to have used excessive force.
And here's another thing, we're all in this industry because we have different motivations, but it's to earn a living. It's to earn money. And I've asked you this question before as an employer. If I've got to go to court because of something that happened 3 months ago while I was working for you, you wouldn't be paying me for that day in court.
No.
So, this is more of your time. In fact, you might even be down because you're likely to have to take time off your day job.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true.
All of a sudden, that door shift is costing you money.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
And that's, as I got older, that really is when people started escalating or becoming heightened. I think towards the end of my career on a door, I came too much the other way, but I was very much like, do I want to be in the police station at 4 o'clock? Do I want to be writing a statement?
That's it.
I'd almost be a little bit too much going. But that time's free, and that's your time.
The thing is, in the early days, the very early days, you want to impress. You want your team to know that you're physically able. You want the guy that runs the company to know you're physically able, and you want your peers to know that, and you kind of, in a lot of cases, you kind of look to make that precedent. So you look to make a statement. But you soon realise that, you don't want the drama. And the more you do it, the more you get involved in things you don't need to be, the law of averages will always come back on you. I was very fortunate. I did take punches and kicks and stuff over my time, but I was never seriously hurt. But I know guys that did get seriously hurt, and a lot of it would have, with the exception of rare cases, a lot of it was because they were constantly dragging people out. And I said the law of averages. You can't win them all. They're not fights, but you can't win them all.
Yeah, it's really interesting what you said, because actually that experience of me being in the courtroom, even as the victim pressing charges, left such a mark on me that for years, ever since then, if anyone's ever assaulted me on the door, I've not pressed charges.
Yeah.
Because that experience I don't want to repeat.
Yeah, I can understand that.
And so it really does. It's just not a nice place to be. So if you can avoid it, you absolutely should. And I think the training, which we're going to come on to, has got better.
Yeah,
it has got better. But I do believe that and this is just the nature of training in general, it's always in an idealistic environment, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, 2 or 3 of you there. Well, even if you're not working a one-man door, even if you're in a 2 or 3-man team, you might still need to restrain someone on your own.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you might need 2 or 3 of your colleagues to make sure that his mates are not trying to jump on you, crowd control, keep the door safe. Where usually if there's 2 people fighting each other, there's 2 or 3 people that may need restraining. And I just find that as good as the training is now, and it's got so much better, I don't know how you can really recreate a live situation for people coming in. I don't know if it's possible. I mean, you've provided training for people. What would you think?
I used to do the training for the door staff, the SAA. So it's actually, from a contact point of view, it's gone backwards.
Okay.
So there's less. They actually do less. Because everyone's so concerned about, being politically correct with training courses. When the DSNC, door supervisor national certificate, came in, I think it was 2000. It wasn't that long after that physical intervention training came in. And when the physical intervention training come in, pre-SAA, but build up to that, you'd have scenarios and role play. And we talk about Bob, because I used to sit with Bob.
Yeah, DTSO.
But the coach, the tutor, would be as realistic as possible. So they go into a toilet, for example, kick off within reason, and they would swear. They'd smash stuff up, and you'd go in and deal with it. And that was the reality of it. But now, that physical intervention trainer can't even swear. So there's like, well, what are you going to do? I'm going to come into the room, I'm going to kick off, and the 2 of you are going to restrain me and take me out. But once you get hold of me, I'm just going to do that. I'm not going to really go for it. And even really going for it wasn't really going for it. You know what I mean? So as long as you can prove that all right, I'm going to walk out now and get the tick there. So that is not good. They need some more realistic training. I think the training is good. I think the what's been delivered is good, but it needs to be, in my opinion, more high pressure.
Yeah.
And it's not the training provider's fault. That's the way it's been instructed to them from up above.
Yeah, and I know I'm presenting problems, not solutions, because I wouldn't. You need to recreate the environment as much as possible. But I mean, we're both boxing fans. You and I could go and have a spar. We both know neither of us are getting hurt, because when one person starts losing, the other person will ease off.
Yeah.
It's the same with the physical intervention training. You know that if I don't apply the technique correctly and the guy breaks out, he's not going to take my head off.
That's right.
That's not the case on your shift on Saturday night.
Right. Exactly.
So there's that extra adrenaline. There's that fear. When you're doing the physical intervention, you don't have music blaring. You're not in low, poorly lit environments. You're not there on 2 hours sleep at 3 o'clock in the morning. All these different factors. So I don't know how you recreate that. But this is where I think we spoke about debriefs before. People really need to take the time to whether it's the more seasoned guys taking the new people under their wing and saying, look, let me show you, come here.
Yes.
Let me show you this. The venue's cleared now, just rather than do that and show them that way. Or actually, do you know what? If you're new into this industry and you worked a couple of venues and you see someone who you really like and you really want to emulate, and he or she's left a good impression on you, most people, if you ask them to show you something, will take that time.
Yeah.
We all love to feed our own ego, don't we?
Yeah, of course. Of course.
So, and but I don't see any of that now. When I'm working, we spoke about this before. I did a bit of work at a venue at the start of the year, and a few things happened. No one came up to me and said, "Oh, just show me that."
Yeah.
Why did you ask me to move out the way when you were talking to that guy? Why did you do that?
Yeah.
Educate. It just didn't happen. Lights on, customers out, off they go to their next venue.
Yeah, I mean, the ideal situation is best practice is you do your training, you get your license, and then you have your own in-house training.
Mm.
And every couple of months, every 6 months even, you spend the whole day, you go through the things you've learned, apply new things if you want, as long as they're non-pain compliant. Because you have to work as a team. You can't restrain people. I mean, there's no point me applying a super effective lock to your left arm if the guy on the right is going to let the arm go.
Yeah.
And then I take it. So working as a team is the most important thing.
Yeah, and it really is, and developing those relationships as well. Because I've worked with different guys in the past where they can kind of tell when it's escalating. They can kind of tell, and there'll be one of my team members in the background already clearing the path to the fire exit. So you're not pushing 20 people over on your way out, but just having someone over there politely 10, 15 seconds before, which is a long time, by the way. That sounds like it's not a long time.
In a situation,
10, 15 seconds is an eternity, but just that, guys, can you just move out of the way a sec? And then the crowd know what's happening. The crowd know. Guys, and it may not come to anything, and the guy may walk.
Yeah.
But actually, I've got a path to remove the person too, without worrying about pushing Dave's grandmother over.
Absolutely.
And now all of a sudden Dave's pissed off at me because I've broken his grandmother's ankle.
Yeah.
Because actually if my mum was in a venue and got pushed over by a doorman dragging someone out, I'd be annoyed as well.
Of course.
So it there's those little things that do we even think about that when we're doing it? Just I think good guys do it without even realizing.
You do it without realizing, but also you have the benefit when you've been doing it for a while. You have the benefit of your gut feeling, so you kind of know when someone is potentially a problem.
Yeah.
And that sixth sense, which we all have, that sixth sense, but a gut feeling. Our gut feeling is generated over hundreds and hundreds of times experiencing whatever it may be, and our gut feeling says this is a potential problem, and then it's being proactive with how you hopefully try and prevent that problem. But if you can't prevent it, you have to be as ready and prepared as possible.
And it's strange, isn't it? The more you do this work, I try to avoid assumptions, and I try to go into a situation with an open mind.
Yeah.
But you usually know if this is going to be a physical eviction or not.
Yeah.
Within seconds.
Yeah.
You know if the guy...
Yeah.
But it isn't always necessarily how the customer presents, because I've seen it where the guy's ripped his shirt off and he's threatening people, and I've been able to talk him out.
Yeah.
But I don't know why. Something's told me that I would have been able to do it.
Yeah.
But then there have been other situations where the guy's actually been quite calm from the outside looking in. You wouldn't really know you're looking at something.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I'm thinking, this guy's not going to leave. He's always going to kick off, and we're going to have to remove him. And sometimes I mean, it could be a self-serving prophecy, don't know. But you just pick up, don't you? You just...
Well, yeah, because most people that are going to do something don't rip their shirt off and shout and scream at it. But that's why you see these guys outside pub clubs, with their shirt off, shouting and screaming about what they're going to do and what they're going to do, and they don't do it. But it's the guy that's quiet, calculated sharp shot. They're the the ones that carry the blades. Most people that get stabbed, that are in the security industry or the club, didn't even know they got stabbed. It wasn't because someone stood up there and said, "Right, I'm gonna fucking do you."
Yeah.
It's they've had a conversation, slipped in and gone, and then suddenly like, oh, what's that? And
Next thing
there's
on the
blood
floor.
everywhere.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? So the ones that shout and scream are normally not the ones that are going to be the problem. And I've always, I've come across them so many times. I'm always much more mindful of those. The
Yeah.
shout and screamers who are telling me 20 minutes before what they're going to do is, all right, it's not good, but you're kind of giving me a lot of notice. I can, yeah. But the ones that the short, sharp, silent assassins, they call it, they're the ones.
Did you ever wear a stab vest while you were working?
I did a couple of times, but it was only because I was working the weekend when someone got shot at Cajun Zoo,
Okay.
or Elements, I think it was called, and it was an R&B night, and I remember that weekend that the club that I was working at had the same theme night the following night.
Okay.
And the police were going to pull it, and then they said, "No, you can do it, but take the restrictions." So we had like a metal detector, and they advised to stab us. I mean, it's not something I would like wearing, but if needs must, then you've got to do it.
I did wear a stab vest for a little while because I was working in a venue when someone got stabbed.
Yeah.
And again, I didn't even know it happened. I was working on the front door, and all of a sudden I'm called to the dance floor because there's a big fight going on, and no one really knows what's happening. You get there, and again, we talk about 10, 15 minutes being a long time. That's the time it takes to get from the front door to the dance floor sometimes. So a lot's happened in that time. We just see in a fracas. I don't even know that the person who's committed the stabbing's already long gone up the road.
Yeah.
And that really, oh shit, I didn't know. So I wore a stab vest for a little while. I found, ironically, a couple of weeks later when I tried to restrain someone, I couldn't because the stab vest wasn't letting me move properly.
Yeah.
So, but it's really, these things do leave an imprint on you.
Massively.
They do leave it in.
Especially if you've seen a lot of blood and guts, or if you go away doubting what you did, your level of response. Are you going home tonight thinking, did I do enough? Did I do too much? Did what I did, was that enough? Are my colleagues now going to think, God, I don't want to work with him again? He was useless. Or are my colleagues going to think he's a liability?
Yeah.
He's too heavy-handed. In feeding his own ego, he jumps in and deals with every situation. But are they going to turn around and go, this guy's a liability? But I don't want to be working with people which are constantly throwing their weight around. To me, they're a liability because I'm a calm operator. If I can diffuse, I'll always diffuse. So when I find myself working with people like that, or have done, I'm like, this is a real problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, you do.
I would much rather talk to someone.
Absolutely.
I'd much rather do
Absolutely. But you see, the pressure there is, right? And I'm the same. I'll talk it out. But the pressure is, this is maturity. It's what's going on around you. So I could stand literally for 10, 15 minutes and talk someone out. But if you were to put me in this room now with no one here, and it took me 25 minutes to talk you out of here, no problem. I've got all night. Getting paid for it, you're not. However, when there's 50, 150 people around saying, what's he doing? Is he bottling it? He's just talking. Get hold of him. There's that pressure. Now, with our experience and maturity, you'd like to think we were okay with that. But the young guns, they're like, right, that's it.
But also, to be honest with you, genuine pressure as well. So while I'm spending 25 minutes talking this guy out, girl out, my colleague's on that front door on his own, doing two people's jobs.
Yeah.
But other stuff might be going on in the venue that's not getting picked up.
Absolutely.
Because my attention and my colleagues' attention backing me up is on this problem.
Yeah, absolutely that.
So there's those pressures as well. We need to deal with the situation quickly.
Yes.
Also, the longer a situation goes on, not only are the crowd going, oh, he's bottling it, but the crowd are going, I don't know if I want to be here.
He's not very effective. Yeah, there's that
I don't
as
want
well.
to be it. I don't want to be. Oh no!
Is it going to erupt?
Yeah,
Are we going to get
let's
involved?
go down the road. Let's go down the road before this kicks off. You know, so your licensee is now annoyed with you because you spending 25 minutes talking that person out has cost him 12 punters.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
Yeah,
and we talk about that, but at the end of the day, that's money.
Yeah.
And it's a financially led environment. So these pressures are not, it isn't just our own ego and our own insecurities.
No.
The genuine practical pressures as well, because actually your colleague might turn around and say, mate, I've been here on my own for 20 minutes with the clickers and the radio.
Yeah.
They've been radioing me down the road to try and tell me something. I've not been able to pick it up because I've had to ID this person.
Yeah.
For all I know, a few people might have got back in. I ain't got a clue because I'm doing two people's job on my own. What were you doing in there? Oh, I didn't want to drag him out, so I took 20 minutes talking this guy out. No, I don't want that anymore. Get them out. So you know, this is operational pressures.
And also you got to take into account the geographical point of view. So it's all very well me grabbing someone from Walkabout, grabbing him, putting outside, because I'm quite confident that there's going to be a 5 or 6 man team. I'm also quite confident there's going to be police on the Horseshoe Common that within reason can quite quickly take him away.
Yeah.
But you also got to take into account, let's say you're in a more isolated venue. Let's say you're working a little pub in the countryside where you've got a slow police response. Do I want to remove this guy? Where am I putting him? I'm putting him out on the pavement. Where does he then go? You know, he might have a 2-mile walk back to a village somewhere. So you every situation is going to be dependent on the location, the people that are around you, the people you're with, and what comes next. Whereas a lot of people don't think about what comes next. They run in, they jump in, they grab someone, throw them out. What comes next? Am I now going to be stood on the door for the next 2 hours, not able to leave that door because he now wants to get back in?
Yeah, and that commitment of resources, and
it's
that dynamic risk assessment, isn't it?
That's what it comes down to.
And again, when you look at something in isolation, it can look very different from the contextual picture. And you got to justify everything. And I do believe as well, if you can look yourself in the mirror, you know the answer.
Oh, of course.
You can lie. You can lie to your colleagues. Yeah, I really felt in danger then. He was going to, he had his hand in his pocket. I thought he might. You really know. You really know. But it's very, sometimes when I've always believed it's kind of all or nothing. What kind of irritates me, you're either talking someone out and you're not putting a hand on them. The moment you make contact, you don't let go to the other venue. When people, that's where you get a lot of danger. When people start to eject someone physically, and then the guy goes, all right, I'll walk. And then they let them go. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah, worst thing.
What are you doing? So I've always had that. It's all or it's nothing. You're completely hands off and you're talking them out. The moment contact has to happen, when I say commit, I don't mean hurt the person. I don't mean go over the top in terms of what you do, but you have to commit all in to that course of action.
Yeah.
And I think because people are scared of losing their licenses, they don't want to be seen to be dragging someone out of venue who's going, please, I'll walk.
Yeah, absolutely,
you know. But again, I think it's that experience of seeing things go wrong when you've let someone go, and then all of a sudden clock.
Yeah. There's also, it goes right back. Every situation, every instant is the result of a sequence of events. someone doesn't randomly punch someone. Very, very rare, and you've got to have something not right here. They don't randomly punch someone. There's been a build-up. You've been eyeing his girlfriend up. She's been doing this. He's been doing that. Or the guy's got progressively drunk. He's a power drinker, and he's continually to get served drinks. There's something that's building up, and this is where the team have to be proactive. They have to identify those sequence of events. A lot of situations that get to the boiling point are because security have not seen it. They've not identified it, and it's just gone because they haven't dealt with the build up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There does always seem to be a culture in security of the experienced guys are outside.
Yes.
The newer guys are inside.
That's true.
And I understand why, because front door control is so important. But actually, I like to have someone, if I'm working at a venue and I've got 3 or 4 people working with me, the most experienced person out of all of them isn't the guy on the front door with me, if I've got any say in it.
Yeah.
Because I want to make sure that I've got someone experienced inside who will see those situations develop before they happen. Someone who hasn't had that experience might not see something before it starts.
Correct.
So actually, you know, you want the right people on the front door, but you also want the right people on the dance floor.
Yeah.
And the dance floor is the key,
yeah,
isn't it? Because actually, if there's a problem at the bar staff are usually pretty good at telling you. They should be anyway.
Yeah.
The DJs have got a mic.
Yeah.
So if if they see something, but it's identifying problems before they start is a skill. So if there's anyone out there who's just been given a head door position as well, and you're allocating people to certain areas, it's worth thinking about that as well. Don't just stick the new guy on the dance floor, because it's almost like a chain of command almost, isn't it, sometimes?
Well, I remember, early days, I kind of got fast tracked a little bit because the company I worked for were expanding quite quick. But I do always remember in my young years, working big venues and being part of the internals, which was normal. And then you used to look forward to that little, at 9 o'clock, you're going to do half an hour on the door, part of your rotation.
Yeah.
I used to look forward to that. I was like, that's exciting. Out on the front door for half an hour. If you time it right, you might get 2 rotations that night. And it was exciting. You get to talk to people. You learn your trade, so to speak. Because the front door, you're absolutely right. That's where it happens. You don't let it in, you don't have the problem.
Yeah.
And I've been able to identify people that are intoxicated, knowing how to identify large groups of guys that are split up and trying to blag their way in. It was a big thing.
But you were viewed as senior a little bit as well, weren't you, if you were on the front door?
Yeah.
You were. And you usually got the earlier start times as well, which...
Yeah, is that as well.
What I find really interesting is I started doing door work really young. And 18, 19, 20, I wanted that responsibility.
Yeah.
But I probably wasn't ready for it. When I got older, I didn't want any responsibility.
No.
But people would put me on the front door.
Yeah, that's right.
I remember going to work at Walkabout back in 2018, and I was quite happy to stand there and be a guy inside.
Yeah.
Let the youngsters do all the work for me, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
And go and leave with a clean shirt, absolutely fine. Within 2 or 3 weeks, I'm working the front door, and I'm like, oh, I didn't ask for this.
Yeah. Well, this takes me back to my point earlier on. You kind of have a shelf life.
Yeah.
In security, unless you adapt. And I've observed for many years. I don't just pluck it out of the air. And I always say it's kind of 4.5, 5, 6 years.
Yeah, you're right.
After that, you're kind of at the point where you're doing it because you need the money. You're doing it because it's just a comfort zone, but your interest starts to wean a little bit.
Yeah.
Unless you're progressing, and like I say, you're taking on a management role or a different type of security.
But I just find it very interesting. You want the responsibility when you're not ready for it.
Yeah.
But when you are ready for it,
you
just don't want it anymore. I guess that's growth, isn't it? Not just in security, but in general.
That's very true. Very true. Yeah.
It's and I guess the security industry does emulate life in general.
Yeah, absolutely does.
But
the circle of life. Circle of life.
How have you found, not just yourself, but people who you've known who have been in the industry a long time? Because you predate SIA.
Yeah.
I started just after SIA came in.
2004, 2005.
Yeah. So I think 2007 I got my first badge, I think. What was okay in 2007 is not okay today.
No.
Policies change, legislation changes, holds that are acceptable are no longer acceptable. The industry evolves, practice evolves. Do you find that my generation and your generation have struggled to adapt with the changing, like people our age, are they still using restraints that perhaps they shouldn't use anymore?
Well, we as human beings would always resort to what we know.
Yeah.
So it's about the regularity of training. As I say, the training that is delivered is good, but you've got to keep doing it. It's like saying, well, I'm going to start boxing tomorrow. I do one session a week for the next 12 months. I'm going to get into a boxing ring, compete. But you're going to do what you naturally do. As soon as you're under pressure, you're going to start swinging your arms.
Yeah.
But if you drill that every day, then you'll punch properly.
Yeah.
You're going to slip. So I don't believe that the security companies these days invest enough in their security and the pay rates to drill that training. Yeah. So they may know the skills, but they will, under pressure, we will resort to what we know. And this is why the system, what I believe is the most effective, is literally the open palm system. Because when someone throws something at you, it's all very well saying you're going to do this and do that, but you're not. You do this.
Yeah.
Most people go like that. So if you're going to do that, let's practice that.
Yeah.
Let's learn how we use that then to block a shot. Let's use that, because that's, if I throw you on the floor, you're going to roll like a baby and roll up in a ball. Let's use that. But yeah, in answer to your question, it's they have struggled with it, but I think sadly it's gone full circle. I truly believe the best period of time for the physical intervention training was just when the SIA first came into effect, when door companies, I'm not saying they wanted the SIA, but there was a buzz about it.
Yeah.
So people were a little bit more excited. Let's learn it. Let's drill it. Whereas now they're doing these courses. As I say, the effectiveness, I believe, has dropped because they can't be so realistic in training. They're getting the ticket, get on the course, get on the door, and that's it. And some of these guys are not destined for the door, Dan. Yeah. They're doing it as a get back to work system. They're getting paid to do it. And I remember delivering courses in a room of 20 in college, not just here, Reading, Cardiff. I just delivered them in London. And although I never judge a book by its cover, after day one, you get onto physical intervention, and people would say to me, if I don't want to throw someone out, where do I stand? What do you mean? That's a strange question. But, well, I didn't get into this job for violence. So, well, what are you here for? Well, the job centre have paid for me to be here, and it's a job. I'm like, this is scary.
And then you get the other end of the spectrum. If I want to throw people out,
yeah.
I'm really interested, Mark, to learn a little bit more and go into detail about the SIA trade, and I think we'll come back to that in part 2. So, guys, thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode, and stay tuned for part 2.
See you then.